Sadly, two firefighters lost their lives and multiple others were injured after a deadly explosion at a fire in Poland. This tragic incident highlights the dangers of lithium ion batteries and raises serious questions about business practices and fire safety. The fire occurred at an apartment complex around 11:50 p.m. on Saturday. Firefighters arrived within 5 minutes and began extinguishing the fire. While searching the basement to locate the source of the flames, there were two massive explosions. The blast allowed the fire to spread rapidly throughout the whole building. Tragically, two firefighters were in the basement at the time of the explosion. They were killed. Unfortunately, their bodies were not recovered until about midday on Sunday. The blast also injured 11 firefighters and three civilians, one resident, and two people that just happened to be nearby. They were all taken to the hospital for treatment. Fortunately, the building's smoke alarms activated, so most of the building's 20 residents, they evacuated on their own prior to the fire department's arrival. That's why it's so important to have working smoke alarms in your house. The alarm goes off, you have time to get out. But not just working smoke alarms. Make sure you check the batteries in your smoke alarms on a regular basis. The other thing you need to verify, what is the age of your smoke alarm? If it's older than 10 years, you should get rid of it. If you look at your smoke alarm, it should have a date on the back. If it doesn't have a date on the back, it's probably too old. If it looks a yellowish color, it's probably too old. Get rid of it and get a new functioning smoke alarm. According to the investigation, the fire began in the basement of this apartment complex. There was a battery refurbishing company that was operating down there. Unlike what we've seen in New York City, this was not a hidden operation. The business openly advertised its services with signage outside the building. In fact, the local fire department had previously used this company's services to refurbish batteries for their flashlights. A company employee revealed that a large quantity of batteries were stored in the business located in the basement. Customers would bring in old batteries to be disassembled and fitted with new battery cells. However, during this process, there are often dangerous mistakes. The employee admitted that small fires broke out 2 to 3 times a week. That's incredible. The fires were typically put out by throwing these batteries into a bucket of sand, but with lithium ion batteries, the sand wouldn't extinguish the fire, it would just give the batteries a safe place to burn themselves out. The employee emphasized that such hazardous operations should never have been conducted in a residential building. And I absolutely agree with that statement. For starters, refurbishing battery packs, it isn't really safe to begin with. But to do it in such a high risk environment, the basement of all places of a residential building, it's insanity. A dedicated building would be a lot safer option, but it's still very risky business. In areas like New York City, there have been a number of fires in shops dedicated to repairing and refurbishing lithium ion batteries in micromobility devices. These really aren't safe operations. I know some of you might be wondering how these batteries can cause an explosion. It's something that's been happening far too often recently. As these batteries fail, they release toxic gas, but that gas also has a high percentage of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Both of these are extremely flammable, and when those gases are released, they're well above the lower explosive limits of the gas itself. These gases could have easily built up inside the enclosed basement and caused significant damage with the explosion, and that's exactly what we saw. Just days after the fire, the company's online presence disappeared, and employees reported that the business was shutting down permanently. There were also reports that old batteries were visible down in the basement from the street in the aftermath of the fire, further fueling speculation about the company's role in this tragedy. The company released a brief statement insisting that their operation had always followed legal and safe standards, though the circumstances surrounding this fire can really cast doubt on this claim. The Poznan's prosecutor's office, they launched an investigation into the cause of the fire and the explosion. A fire safety expert has been brought in to assess the site and provide hopefully some good insight into the sequence of events. Refurbishing batteries is a high risk activity that I really don't recommend. It's dangerous work that should never have been done in an area where people live. But on top of all that, firefighters often enter hazardous situations without the full knowledge of the risks. While we should be preparing and pre planning buildings in high risk areas, industrial areas, sometimes there's hazards in these residential areas that catch us off guard. When it comes to lithium ion batteries, more rigorous safety regulations and protocols are essential to protect everybody. My heart goes out to the families of the two fallen firefighters, as well as those injured in this tragic incident. Prime Minister Donald Tusk called them true heroes of our time, and we must honor their memory by improving fire safety and preventing future tragedies like this. This incident serves as a reminder of the hidden dangers of lithium ion batteries. Businesses working on these materials need to prioritize safety above everything else, and first responders must receive adequate training to handle these types of fires safely.